Life is at its fullest when there is peace. Peace comes when all is in harmony. Harmony occurs when all is balanced. But what if there is neither peace nor harmony? What if everything is unbalanced? How can we live a life at its fullest? Life in province is amazing. You can eat fresh fruits from trees, drink milk from cow, big fishes from the ocean. I wish I can go back. City life is fun. Towering buildings can be seen. Noisy cars can be heard. Lots of people to meet. Everything is spontaneous but kind. If I were to choose whether to be in the province or city, I'd choose.
Biodiversity is the variety and variability of life on Earth. Biodiversity is typically a measure of variation at the genetic, species, and ecosystem level. Biodiversity refers to all the variety of life that can be found on Earth, as well as the communities that they form and the habitats in which they live. The number of species of plants, animals, and microorganisms, the numerous diversity of genes in these species, the different ecosystems on the planet are biologically diverse. Biodiversity serves as a source of food, medicine, and many other materials needed to sustain human life. Living organisms interact in a dynamic ecosystem. Biodiversity boosts ecosystems' productivity, which each species, no matter how small they all have important role to play. Healthy ecosystems provide us with many essentials we take for granted. Sometimes we tend to believe that this will last for eternity. Our biodiversity is amazing. But slowly as time goes by, as we build infrastructure, as we cut trees, as we generate environmental machines to run our business, and as we clear the forest just to have enough space, it's likely indirectly killing of animals. That aside from natural causes of biodiversity loss like climate change and natural calamities, declining biodiversity is therefore a concern for many reasons. It can lead to a breakdown in functioning of ecosystem. So as we dominate this planet, we need to preserve diversity among species and organisms. And we are the reason why there is what you call habitat loss, an important reason why biodiversity is collapsing.
The various and intertwined levels of biological diversity are key constituencies of the natural system's complexity, a characteristic that makes them more resilient. But there is evidence that human pressure on terrestrial and aquatic environments reduces resilience of ecosystems and the functional roles of biological diversity. This paradox is reflected in numerous examples. Historically, urban societies have been established in areas of high species richness, yet urbanization is, without doubt, a major threat to biodiversity. Unable to reproduce natural complexity, simplifying seems to allow society to control the benefits from natural systems, for instance, through changing natural covers by agricultural or urban land uses. This loss of biodiversity reportedly poses as serious and urgent a threat to humans as climate change, but it has been less discussed. Why do you think this has been the case? And given increasing public concern after last year's report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, the IPCC has traditionally gotten much more attention. But that is because the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, or IPBES, is much younger. This is the first global biodiversity assessment since 2005 to present the state of biodiversity and economic services and what it means for humanity. In contrast, the IPCC has decades of history, so we are following in their steps, inspired by them in the way we organize ourselves. And as a result, I think people are starting to listen.
There are major causes of biodiversity as follows: habitat loss and fragmentation. Habitat loss occurs when natural habitats are converted to human uses, such as cropland, urban areas, and infrastructure development. Habitat fragmentation occurs when large blocks of habitat are cut into smaller pieces by development, such as roads or housing. Pollution. Pollution is the introduction of harmful materials into the environment. These harmful materials are called pollutants. Pollutants can be natural, such as volcanic ash. They can also be created by human activity, such as trash or runoff produced by factories. Pollutants damage the quality of air, water, and land. Overexploitation for commercialization. Overexploitation, also called overharvesting, refers to harvesting a renewable resource to the point of diminishing returns. Continued overexploitation can lead to the destruction of the resource. Illegal wildlife trade. Illegal wildlife trade not only exploits vulnerable wild animals, but it has also been proven to be a pathway for new and emerging diseases. Invasive species. An invasive species is most often a non-native species that spreads from a point of introduction to become naturalized and negatively alters its new environment. Global climate change. Climate change includes both the global warming driven by human emissions of greenhouse gases and the resulting large-scale shifts in weather patterns. Population growth and overconsumption. The theory of overpopulation reflects issues of carrying capacity without taking into account per capita consumption, by which developing nations are evaluated to consume more than their land can support. Species extinction. The extinction of any species is an irreversible loss of part of the biological richness of the earth. Extinction can be a natural occurrence caused by an unpredictable catastrophe, chronic environmental stress, or ecological interactions such as competition, disease, or predation. More species are needed to ensure a stable supply of ecosystem goods and services as spatial and temporal variability increases.
These problems grow bigger and bigger that it seems impossible to stop as the world continues to progress. However, there are still some ways we can do to prevent this problem from growing. We must recognize that biodiversity is the pillar that allows ecosystem to function and humans to thrive. Without biodiversity in an ecosystem, we would not have the many plants and animals we find in our world today, including us. Biodiversity is the biological diversity in an environment as indicated by numbers of different species of plants and animals. Even though the biodiversity of many habitats has become threatened, there are many things we can do to help reduce this danger. There are some actions that are taken by different organizations, whether in government or in private group, to sustain our biodiversity. There are government legislation, laws protecting endangered species, and nature preserves. These organizations protect a region and the organisms that live there from certain forms of development and provide access for the people to visit them. This is excellent because it protects the natural habitat and is a place where people can feel the ecosystem, reducing amount of invasive species. Habitat restoration. After an area is damaged by human impacts, we can try to return it to its natural state. This means bringing back the plants and animals that are naturally found there. This has been shown to be a promising way of returning biodiversity to a region. Reduce climate change. We need to move away from fossil fuels and towards alternative energy sources and natural or sustainable products.
My fellow people, I hope that this will serve as a reminder for all of us that we are responsible for taking care of the things that are given to us by our Almighty. It is not too late to change our actions. We must learn in every consequences and losses to take care of our home, to build a brighter future, to preserve what's left, and to sustain these resources into a more productive scale for the sake of the next generations, for our sake, and for the world's sake. We have the power and the willingness to take action to solve this problem if we only wanted to.